They came on dreams, the immigrants, to build a nation.
The laws of Canada and fulfill my duties as a Canadian citizen.
Montreal is home to 65,000 Spanish-speaking Canadians, most of them immigrants and refugees from South and Central America. The first wave fled here after military coups that spread across South America in the 1970s. One of them is Ana Maria Seifert. She was a political prisoner in Bolivia. She got out in 1973. She was told that if she wanted to live, she must go to the furthest possible place. Ana Maria lives in a housing co-op in the working-class district of Rosemont. She shares an apartment with her two daughters. Julia and Tanya helped their mother come to terms with her past.
It's crazy, but when you come to a new country, you have to reconstruct your history in order to find your identity, because nobody knows who you are. You have no reference. You have to become someone again. It's different when you come here as an immigrant, because as an immigrant, you came here by choice, looking for new horizons. When you are forced to leave as a refugee, you're forced. You have no choice. Your only thought is survival.
August 21st, 1971, La Paz, Bolivia. The military coup that set the stage for Pinochet's more famous coup in Chile 2 years later. One of the main targets in La Paz was the university, where an oblate priest from Quebec had set up a program designed to get students working with Indian peasants. Ana Maria was a medical student who took part in that program. The priest who set it up was Maurice Lefebvre. He was killed in the coup. Within a few days of his death, Ana Maria was arrested. She was 19 years old.
You once told me that they put you in a different cell because you were a bit rebellious. They chose you to make an example for the others. So they put you in a cell with prostitutes? With the prostitutes, it was very cold and there were rats, but the prostitutes gave you blankets and pieces of bread. It was a beautiful story.
You're right. The people they chose to punish were the weak and the young, to make an example to the others and warn them there would be no place for resistance. There was no rebellion in prison, but there was some resistance. But they didn't succeed because we stuck together.
This is Bolivia's strongman, Colonel Hugo Banzer. In 1972, he was celebrating the first anniversary of his coup. Ana Maria was still in prison. After almost a year behind bars, her wealthy aunt got the regime to release her on condition that she go to the furthest possible place. The aunt had a relative in Montreal. Montreal then was still living in the optimism and activism of the 60s. The hippies were demonstrating for love and peace. The unions were using their new strength to battle for a better share of the booming economy. And Quebec independence seemed close at hand. In the midst of all this excitement, Ana Maria had to concentrate on the business of survival. Like most immigrants, she trudged off to low-paying jobs in the textile district. She also moved into her new Quebec life. She learned French at a community college, had 2 daughters with a refugee from Chile, and she took a degree in biology to prepare for a career in workers' health and safety. Perseverance runs deep in her family.
My father insisted that I study. He made me return always to the image of my mother. She was an independent woman. You may be in charge of a home, but you must also be an independent professional woman. He often told me that when he was gone, I would take charge of the family, and to do so, I would have to study. And somehow that has stuck with me. I am still on that path. The other day, when I submitted my application for a doctorate, I went out into the street and I said to myself, my father is there.
Ana Maria has chosen to live in this co-op housing development with hundreds of other exiles and immigrants from Central and South America. One of her neighbors is Laura Martinez, Ana Maria's best friend. Laura arrived from Bolivia shortly after Ana Maria. She helped her raise her 2 daughters as Ana Maria built her new life.
At first, winter was like a dark hole because the night fell early and the day started late. I left the house when it was dark. I worked at night in a place where there was no light and returned home when it was still dark. Winter for me was darkness. There was no sun, no light, nothing.
And
then there were those terrible storms. The entrance hall was always a disaster. We had to learn to live with that.
This is Prince Arthur Street at the corner of St. Lawrence Boulevard, where generations of immigrants have restarted their lives. The 2 Bolivian women spent years working in this area, part of the changing face of Quebec.
Look, here's where the factory was. I went in here and right down to the end, we made baby bonnets on the 2nd floor. I put the bonnets in little boxes, then covered them and piled them up.
This used to be a Bolivian handicraft store. Ana Maria worked here for 2 years.
In the back there was a table, and down here there was merchandise as well.
Did you like working there?
You know, when the merchandise arrived, the bags smelled like sheep. They smelled of straw and sheep. I could smell the high plains of Bolivia, the sheep and the cheese. It was wonderful. And the newspapers they were wrapped in had all the Bolivian news. Not that important, but at the same time, they are important when you're away.
So, would you say that working there marked a change for you?
Oh, yes. I began to feel that I had a home here, that I was becoming part of this country.
Ana Maria Seifert, the Bolivian refugee, has found safety in Montreal. But the past is never far away. Ana Maria finally meets the brother of Maurice Lefebvre, the murdered priest from Quebec who had so impressed her in her student days in Bolivia.
Did you know he'd been killed in 1971?
That was the day of the coup.
It's not easy.
That morning, the students started to mobilize, and I was with them. The battle was going on downtown, but you couldn't go there. The fighters were flying overhead. The fighting was fierce. Then a radio announcer by the name of Gonzago Theroux, who was very close to Maurice, said, The Bolivia is in mourning. Maurice Lefebvre has fallen.
Mauricio Lefebvre vient de tomber.
It was 7 o'clock in the evening.
Maurice had worked hard to help Bolivian Indians fight for better living conditions. They're a marginalized people, even though they make up 70% of the population. Ana Maria knows them well.
Mais moi, j'ai eu une vie pas ordinaire. C'est que quand j'étais enfant,
I didn't have an ordinary life. That is to say, when I was 5 or 6 years old, my father started to be persecuted by the government in power, even though it was so ironic because he was in the right himself. We lost everything. My father had been rich, but when he asked his rich friends for help, nobody would open the door to him. So we had to fall back on my father's workers. And they lived in the city, but they sent us to the countryside to live with their families.
For years as a young girl, Ana Maria lived in poverty with the Indians who looked after her. It marked her for life.
Donc, je me suis retrouvée à vivre.
I lived in the country with the family of my father's workers, or in town with another worker's family. It was very difficult for me. My hair was light brown, my skin was white. They called me the young lady. I remember once a guy said to me, "Today you live with us, but when you grow up, you will have high heels and you will have perfume, and when you pass me on the street, you will spit on me." It's the reality, that's life, because we are not in the same class. At that moment, I said, I will never do that.
Ana Maria has kept the promise she made to herself so many years ago. Laura Martinez, Ana Maria's best friend, is a descendant of Bolivian Indians. Today, she works at an immigrant center, but she started off 25 years ago, like many immigrants, making beds and cleaning toilets. Ana Maria now works to improve the working conditions of chambermaids and other women workers. She's become an ergonomist, an expert at finding ways to reduce health risks in the workplace. She could see how immigrant women were exploited. She wanted to ensure that people like Laura had safe places to work.
Another way to do it, that's also very interesting, is the way the girl puts the sheet on the bed. She takes the sheet, does something like this to gather it, and then throws it on the bed. That spreads the sheet and is easier to do.
Marcela Duversin is an immigrant from Haiti. She's a chambermaid and president of her local of the Hotel Workers Union.
We can look at it with the girls, as I said before doing the session with you, before they make their beds.
Ana Maria's work is known and respected internationally. Today, she addresses a delegation of university teachers from Brazil.
I've noticed that after your research, there have been big changes, even in legislation, which is very, very important. So, how did it start?
The first request came from the leader of the CSST, the organization that pays for compensation to injured workers.
In Canada, she's become an indispensable resource person for the union movement in their fight to establish safe and clean working conditions for their members.
As they were mostly first-generation immigrants, they didn't speak French very well, and if they spoke it, they couldn't write it. So it was almost impossible to switch them to lighter work where they wouldn't have any back problems. That was impossible.
Ana Maria is the link between cultures living and working together. She's become an ambassador as much as an advocate. Ana Maria Seifert made her way from Bolivian exile to Quebec. But to find her place here, she needed to reach out beyond the community of exiles. She needed to share her life with Quebecers. Micheline Cyr was her first Quebec friend. The two women met in the biology lab at the University of Quebec in Montreal.
I remember you made it possible for me to finish my MA. When I didn't have a job, you saw how upset I was, and you decided, even though you tried to deny it, you decided on the spot to share your job in the lab with me. I couldn't believe that somebody would do this for me. It was so kind. I knew there wasn't much in your piggy bank. But you told me something I never forget. You said, it's not important that we don't have much. What's important is that we get through this together. If you hadn't done that, I would have had to give up. I had 2 small children. You know that my girls were younger then, and I had no money to pay the rent. You made it possible to pay the rent. You made it possible for me to continue. It was like, let's do it.
It's true, we are in the same boat together. It was both of us or nothing.
You are familiar with this microbe, but you can't guess what it is because it looks very pretty. But it's the bacteria of pus.
It's many years since Ana Maria's first frantic searches for work. Today, she's a featured speaker at a conference on health issues for unionized workers from around Quebec.
Viruses are extremely small. If you could imagine it to be the size of a human head, a bacterium would be the size of a 3-story house, and a cell would be the size of a block of houses. So it's very small and very simple. There's not much inside it. It's just a membrane which contains genetic material. And this genetic material does nothing but reproduce. So, because the virus does not breathe, it's a parasite.
She's very rigorous, and that's very important because these union delegates have to go and talk with their employer. And if they put forward proposals without backup material, they lose.
Ana Maria is a senior researcher at Symbiose, based at the University of Quebec in Montreal. In the 12 years Ana Maria has been working here, Symbiose has earned a reputation for groundbreaking work in improving conditions of workers employed in hospitals, schools, banks, as well as hotels. Ana Maria has done all her work in collaboration with Karen Messing, a co-founder of Symbiose.
We've been extremely lucky to have Ana Maria with us at Symbiose. In my book introduction, I called her the heart and soul of Symbiose, and I think that that was an appropriate description of the role that she plays.
There's little time to reflect on her achievements. Today, Ana Maria celebrates the completion of her application to study for a doctorate.
Isn't it great? Oh, what you wrote, it's excellent.
It's been a long journey for Ana Maria, from prison in La Paz to working for social justice in Montreal, surrounded always by friends and family. But other family remain behind, an old wound that took a long time to heal.
It took me 4 trips back to pick up the broken pieces and to heal myself. to let my people know how much I regretted not being with them, to let them know that I couldn't do anything else, that I had to do what I did. And after straightening that out, I could start to decide where I wanted to live without feeling torn apart by guilt. I had a huge sense of guilt, which I think all refugees have. We leave, we are saved, but what happens to those you leave behind? I remember the last time I returned from Bolivia. I got off the airplane at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. When I went home, I saw that the walls were white. So I went to the hardware store and I bought some paint. I painted my home. It was the first time that I did something that said clearly, this is my home. I made it my home. It's where I live. It's my country. It's my place.